Welcome to the Blue Collar Barbarians podcast, brought to you by the Blue Collar Barbarians Network. And we got a good one for you today. My man, Jesse Parman, with Parman Exterior, former operator, now operator as in owner-operator of his own company. But before we dive into this gold mine, which I assure you it's going to be a gold mine, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into this, I want to take a second to talk about the giveaways. We have lots of stuff. This right here is a Ridge belt, okay? This little orange thing, yep, that's safety for you. High vis, low drag belt. Lightweight, everything. I got 2 of these to give away. I got all sorts of gear. I got Gerber knives. I got hats. I got swag from Tier 1 Kinetics. I'm working on some stuff from Heatwave. We got lots in the works. All we ask, comment, engage on the show. Go ahead and follow our pages, both on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you do the thing, okay? Subscribe, any of that, anything that you can do to get notified. What we are going to do is we are going to build a page on the website that you can go, and it will capture all the information for you, one stop, one click, and you'll be entered to win. That being said, we have brought a lot of very cool people into the mix to bring you guys these giveaways, to give back and to provide value. That is what this is about. We're not asking for anything other than to share and help your homies grow as they go. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening to our show and consuming thus far. And pay extra special attention because we got lots of cool stuff coming your way, to include these little Ridge belts. Thank you to Ridge Belts for that. Shout out to them. We really appreciate it. We even got some holster gaiters. But we're not here to talk about giveaways forever. So we're going to dive right in to this very peculiar show. My man, Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking your time to be with us this morning.
Yeah, happy to come do it.
A little bit closer to the mic.
A little bit right here.
Yep.
Yeah, happy to be here and excited to get in some good content today.
Yeah, this should be good. Now, what a lot of people don't know is we've worked together on Hoffman job sites and some other companies, and you're a bit of a barbarian yourself.
I can be a bit assertive at times, yes.
Yes. He's an unruly character, guys. He's got one of the biggest hearts of people I've ever met. He very much cares. Guys like us, we wear our emotions on our sleeve. I call it a gift, but it's also sometimes a curse at the same time. Would you agree?
I would agree. It's pretty easy to see how I'm feeling about most situations. Working on that, hiding that a little bit more these days. But it's easy to tell where our emotions at. Guys like us.
Yeah, well, what I will say is that I think it's a talent for you, man. I would never want to see you change. I think it's a lot of people maybe don't understand passion or charisma, but I think it's like a strong suit to you. And I also think that these little tiny difference makers are the things that, one, they make us unique, right? Unique and individuals, but 2, it is a gift. It's that captivating thing that gives you the opportunity to tell your story. It gives you the opportunity to lead. It gives you the opportunity to become that phoenix, if you will, right? That's rose from what you've been through to who you are now, but it's a captivating way to be able to display it. So don't take it as a weakness. I certainly don't. I see it as a strength of yours, if anything.
Roger.
That being said, though, let's dive in. Tell us about you. The audience, I know a little bit about you, but let's talk to who is Jesse?
All right. My name is Jesse Parman. Grew up Northwest native, Mount Hood native, actually.
Mount Hood.
Yeah.
That's my back.
Went to your standard high school experience, one of 4 kids, mom, dad still together, great upbringing from them.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And after high school, I wrestled a long time. So it'd be elementary school, high school, and then after high school. And that was kind of my identity, in the beginning, my very early teen days. And when that kind of ended, I was going to school at Oregon State University and Lynn Benton, like a dual dual school program, down there studying biology. And I got involved with Corvallis Fire and Rescue.
Oh.
And I applied and actually got offered a live-in resident volunteer program position, which is really kind of a position that's streamlined to get you into a career position. You live and work full-time for the department with a career crew, a little bit more intensive than some of the other volunteer programs that guys do, which, still very admirable, obviously, but this position was for these young guys who were really just hard charging and ready to get in there and learn some things, from these professionals. And that was a phenomenal experience. Had some great leadership in that department, and learned a lot from those guys.
So let's take that back just a step. That was first of all, thank you for serving, and not you are a veteran. We'll get to that in just a second, but thank you for caring about your community from a young age. I think that's really admirable to be able to step into a position to volunteer and to take things on. That's incredible. But would you say, so with you said wrestling was your identity. I want to touch on that for just half a second because football was me. Mm-hmm. And I also, believe it or not, went to Lynn Benton. I finished high school at Lynn Benton Community College. So I grew up in Halsey.
Okay.
That's that's where I'm from. So that being said, wrestling, those guys, that's grit right out of the gate. That's tenacity. That's tough. That's torture tests. That's discipline. That's physical fitness. There's a combination of things that I would say go with that. Would you say that is what made you not afraid of hard work? Obviously, you had a great role model as a father and stuff too, but would you say is that where you learned a little bit of your edge?
Yeah, I had a pretty good model from the men in my family and the women, hardworking, blue-collar family. Yeah. No quit in them, just grinding. And then my dad got me into wrestling. He wrestled, and at a young age, I wanted to quit just like every other kid, 9, 10 years old, starts wrestling, and it's real hard. You're getting beat up all of a sudden. You're like, I don't think I like this, Dad, Yeah. But I stuck with it. And
forced adversity.
That's absolutely. Forced adversity. He had the wheels. He dropped me off, and I didn't have any wheels to leave, so that's where I was going to be at the practice room.
And that carried into firefighting, I'm sure, then, like with going to that extreme volunteer position.
And, wrestling set the tone for enduring uncomfortable situations and mental challenges against yourself, against an opponent. It's a fantastic sport that I believe has such positive implications on each individual who partakes in its life, because it builds values that carry way, way beyond the sport. When life gets hard, you just keep grinding, and that was just a base right from the beginning, and, you're at practice, you got a problem with somebody, you're not getting along, you're tired. You get beat up a little bit, there might be a headbutt to the nose, and the coach might say, take care of it, boys, and handle your business.
Right.
And shake hands.
And you certainly learned how to do that. That's for sure.
Yes.
So then you got into this aggressive fire program, a volunteer nonetheless, but still this aggressive fire program down in Corvallis. Were you wrestling while you were doing that for the school? Or?
No, I was no longer wrestling. If there was like a amateur athletic union, which is kind of like the amateur league for wrestling, you could sign up and wrestle. And I did a couple of those tournaments over the years. Wrestled down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, wrestled a guy from Nebraska. We were in the winning bracket, and I think I was wrestling 152 at the time, a little heavier now. That guy was like 4 foot nothing. So at 152, 4 foot nothing, his back was about as wide as this table, and he had corn husks on a singlet. I couldn't really move him around too much, but we had a good bout. I ended up losing that one, coming back up the consolation for third in that. So that was a good tournament. That was a national tournament. And, wrestling, I have accolades, but mostly, I just value what it gave me as for character and core. And just like all these organizations that we're going to discuss in these experiences, the military, the fire service, big companies. There's something to take from all of these things.
Absolutely.
Right? At all times. I look at every opportunity as I do anything, as I sit here with you guys today, you know, in this podcast, and honored to be here. And it's great to be here. I'm drawing, I'm analyzing, I'm watching, I'm observing and seeing what you guys are doing to be successful. And I love it. I just eat it all up. Anything I can do to absorb more information, I love. So to be moving forward, I was carrying along with the fire thing. I got some great, I got to be in some live fire situations, house fires. Got to see paramedics perform at a high level. Got to see the connection to patient, to career professional, and be down on that level of the human condition of seeing people in their worst day and being there to comfort them, and obviously providing your technical skill set to take care of their health. But more the compassion component is what I really saw. I was really drawn to that, medicine and emergency medicine in particular. So that was my next identity latch, you know. So
that set like you on a path kind of.
Yes.
So you started with wrestling and you took that and pretty much it gave you a core to character, if you will.
Right.
And then you moved into the fire department and you got to, that must have been invigorating for you with your personality, especially, right? Like you got to actually hands-on help and see,
you know,
things transpire.
Yeah.
Right?
Looking back 2020, you know, I'm just a young kid, you know, don't know nothing, you know, and I was humbled by leadership there a few times. I had some great conversations like, hey, young man, like you're not quite there yet, you know, and that was great.
Hey,
it was a great learning experience, and those are great conversations, and leadership handled it really well. Really built my character there as well. And so I was continuing along with that, going to school, and I was kind of like, you know what, I want to do more. So I joined the U.S. Navy and did a short stint in the Navy as a corpsman, which in the Navy, that's a medic, and it can range from being a dental assistant to fighting with the Marine Corps. You know, there's lots of ranges of that. And that's a longer story for another time, but got out of the Navy, and I will say the military was like, I was like, oh, yep, I identify. Like, this is my culture. You know, a lot of the structure of it, a lot of the hardness of it, a lot of the patriotism, the passion, the different walks of life. It was a fantastic experience. And I'll carry that with me forever. After the military, I thought I wanted to re-enlist, actually. So I was actually prepping to get a higher level of medical certification because I wanted to pursue some type of instructor position in the military. And that's when my first son came along, you know, and as life goes. And I had quite a bit of construction experience already, just being a family, past trade. My grandpa was a logger for 30 years, you know, and et cetera, running machinery. You know, I was up on machines on the ranch, you know, at a young age, you know, driving truck at 11 years old, 12 years old, you know, helping grease machinery, all that stuff. And so it was just kind of a natural step into, hey, you know, I'm becoming a father, which is a big deal. It's the best job. I will say it is the best job, but it is the hardest job, and it is an important job. And so at that point in time, my personal dreams and goals became a little bit different. You know, it was like, it's time to start providing and maintaining a skill set that is going to support my family.
Awesome.
Yeah. So after that, you know, we got over a decade in the trades and kind of catches up to where we are right now. You know, a lot of experiences in between that time, obviously. And we got a short window here, so I want to keep moving forward, brother.
Yeah, no problem. So with that, one thing I would like to talk about for today is Veterans Day, the day that we're recording this. This is Veterans Day. I want to say thank you for your service personally. Like, I really appreciate it, genuinely. I know that we hear that a lot, but I mean, authentically speaking, I want you to know that as a veteran myself also, like, I genuinely appreciate what you've done, and I understand the cost that's come with probably to your life, that a lot of things that people don't and never could quite understand. But I would also like to thank the other men and women out there that are currently serving or that have served. I think it's really important to take just a second from our show and just say, hey, we see you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for your time. I don't care about why you're serving. What I care is that you've taken that oath and that you are. This is what keeps us free. This is what makes America America. And I'm sure damn proud of the red, white, and blue. I still get choked up about that. So to our veterans out there, our men and women in service, thank you. To our first responders that are out there, thank you. To our law enforcement officers, thank you. I want to digress from that, but I want to say thank you. I want to echo thank you for what you have done. And that being said, so let's move into coming up in the trades, right? So we kind of covered your character. You come from this background, blue collar is what you know. You had a great example in the home life. Congratulations on your mom and dad still being together. That's incredible. And I think that will speak for you going forward with your wife, and that's great for your kids to also get to see. That's just incredible in today's society. My mom passed away in 2008. I wish more than anything I could have that relationship. So let's talk about, so you go in and you're a corpsman, and I was a Marine, so I do understand what corpsmen do. There is quite the contrasts, like you said, on green side and blue side, and the differences there. But you get, essentially, he's got, for the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, he's been exposed to different things and trauma and just chaos at its finest, and having to make decisions at a radical speed that have permanent implications, if you will. And he's got put under high stress and high intensity, very time driven, very, very, very time sensitive positions that you get to be put in. And we don't need to cover all those experiences, but let's parlay, because I know for me, transitioning out was like a bit of a shock to come back to dealing with 18-year-old kids. And I was only 22, 23, right? But to come back and deal with 18-year-old kids that are worried about the temperature of their coffee and what's drawn in it with creamer, to being, when I was 19, I was charging into battle with kids underneath of me. And
what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
You don't know nothing.
And then not trying to have that chip on your shoulder, because it's nobody's fault. It's just a thing, right? So what's coming up in the trades like as a veteran?
Coming up in the trades, I actually had the experience to work with a buddy of mine, Marine as well, owned a small business, concrete pumping business. He still does, and he's doing really well for himself these days. But so he brought me along and taught me concrete pumping, and not the high-level commercial machinery that we see on our job sites, the rough and tough and hard, again, line pump, which is, in short, a metal threaded, covered in rubber, from 2.5 to 5 inch steel-bound hose that is full of concrete and being pumped by a trailer-mounted pump, essentially. And you, as the operator, are dragging that concrete hose around and placing the concrete for the finishers. Extremely physical job. And again, I come from a physical background, and when I first started, I was like, whoa, all right, check that. That's difficult. And he kind of chuckled, but he knew I was no stranger to that. So we kept at it, and my body adjusted, as it always does at a young age, and did that for some years, and then went into the union trades as a boom pump operator, and got the opportunity to work on tons of high rises. Kind of fell into the specialty of working with the Highrise Pumping, which is where you're vertically moving concrete up to 30, 40 stories in the air, and helping build these levels of these huge structures. When people are sleeping, that's when we're working. We're getting up at midnight, 2 a.m., 1 a.m. at the yard, getting our trucks fired up, doing our, because we're all CDL licensed and all these certifications, getting everything checked off. Pretty common procedure for me in every kind of experience I've done. So long hours though, and you're looking at anywhere from a 8-hour day to a 18-hour day. And it's kind of an unknown because it's a chemical based or timestamp based type of trade. And there's a lot of factors that fall into it, just like many things in the commercial trades and in the union trades. So really dug in there, worked a lot. And then I branched off and jumped into excavating, bell and tower crane, working with a lot of people we both know, working with you. And then I kind of found a niche in that I really enjoyed, the material logistics, because as machine operators, we move material,
Yes.
So I had the opportunity to work on the ground level because of being a bellman, which is the person who communicates with the crane and will place material loads where the crane operator oftentimes cannot see them through communication. So it's an important position to work closely with that other operator. And really proud of those times. Those were fun and hard and technical. But moving forward, last project I was on, I had the opportunity to work pretty closely with one of the project managers, which a project manager pretty much handles the whole job from a organization standpoint. So I was, again, just being a sponge, trying to draw as much information from him as I could, because the seed in my mind of branching off was growing, and the desire to branch off and to do my own thing was growing. I will say, on a personal level, I'm a father of 3 children and married, that for my family, the trades are very demanding. And these multi-billion-dollar projects are very demanding. And I've given a lot of my time to demands of the work field over my life and throughout the course. But I really decided to step into a higher level of priority for my family. And I realized with my children's needs and what I wanted for my family was autonomy and freedom to be there for my children, not be on a job site at 9 p.m. and somebody's sick and they got to go to the ER and I can't make it, And my hat's off to all the men and women who are in the trades doing that. And I know how difficult that is on your family. And I know it works for some of your families, and that's great. And that's great. But in my particular case, that wasn't going to work anymore for me. And on a real level, it really wasn't going to work for my family,
Right.
And I choose my family every time. So
as you should.
Yeah.
As you should. So what I want to do is just, the pause isn't the right word, but I just want to recapture this for the audience really quick. So he came out of the military, had a kid, had your first child, and then he jumped right into what he knows, gritty, hard work, and found your identity yet again in submersing yourself in hard, which that speaks to your character, right? Like just that the more you suffer, sometimes the more you truly live, is that's my own personal opinion. And that's the more I appreciate life. So I personally understand where that comes from. It's this desire to know what will break you and what can't break you, especially when you are disconnected from a tribe, essentially, an organization that everybody is battle, everybody is ready to go, and the ones that aren't cut are out, right? Like the ones that don't make it, people know who you are. You're not hiding from anybody with your Tony Hawk skateboard, skating under the you're not. Everybody knows that you're a slob. But so you come from that, you get into this grittiness, you work your way through that, and then you just constantly just push the envelope a little bit. That's what you're saying but not saying, is that you always just found a way to edge it just a little bit more, next level. And that carried from wrestling, like, right? If you go back to what we talked about earlier, you got into wrestling and then you went into the fire, and then from fire you went into like, what's the next step? Like in the EMT world of, okay, now I'm in the military doing this. And then from the military, okay, maybe I'm not doing medical stuff anymore because life demands, I need to be able to pay for my kids, but I can push myself this way. This is a new kind of hard to me, right?
Sure.
And then you go work your way up, and he's being very humble when he talks about the things. Jesse's got a great reputation around town for pumping concrete. He's one of the best hands that there was. Ran all sorts of different rigs, all sorts of different sizes, built all sorts of different buildings, pumped millions and millions and millions and millions of yards of mud to build the Portland skyscraper.
Liquid gold.
Liquid gold, he calls it. It fed his family, that's for sure.
That's right.
And then he got bored with that and just decided to pursue more with that. And he got into the other side of the union operating and took on a new challenge, becoming bell and cranes, running man material lifts and Alamax and forklifts. And this guy is one of the most talented forklift operators I've ever worked with. He can do a lot with it. He takes challenges and turns it into a surgical thing, right? Like, so you find a way to do something and you put your own little twist on it. How can I do this better? How can I do this the best? And it's not against what might be perceived as try to be better than other people. It's just better than you were yesterday. It's just better than you. That's all it really comes down to, which could be misunderstood. But you became the best at that. And then you got to a point where you realized that that was becoming detrimental to the most important thing to you, which is your family. And just to take a step here for our audience, because a lot of our audience listens to this while they're actually working, which I think is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The awareness that he had to be able to look and evaluate on the fly that, like, this is going to either cost me, do I want to make money or do I want to have a family? Do I want to have a wife and kids, or do I want to pursue 100%. Wealth through working through another company, building somebody else's dream? The awareness that you have there is incredible, man. So congratulations to you and mad props and respect to being able to have that conversation, because that's not an easy conversation to have. And me and you have talked offline before, but, like, you know, one of the biggest holdups in transitioning careers a lot of the time is money, right? Like, for me, I have 4 kids as well. I'm married as well. I got a couple of dogs. We got a kitten now. Yeah, I know I'm getting soft with my old age, right? Letting the kids experience things. But right. You start to evaluate things and you realize, like, man, like, because of the way I set my life up, now I've put myself in a position where I have to make X to float, or at least I perceive that I have to make X to float, right? So for you to be able to make the jump, which we're about to get into, and this is where it's really going to get good, is it's incredible, man. Just the level of self-awareness and risk assessment that comes with that. I want to commend you for what you've done, you know, as a peer and somebody that's watched you. And one of the things that I really wanted to get into on this, and we won't spend a ton of time on this, but let's talk for a second, adverse leadership. Right? This is a very important thing. So for our guys that are listening, sometimes when we're on the job site, we have leaders that are incompetent, flat out. Sometimes that's just a thing. Or we have leaders that are less able than you are, right? They're less capable. And when I met Jesse, it wasn't that he was a problem child, but people perceived him as a problem because of their lack of ability to be able to communicate, to be honest with you, is what I discovered in finding that. And hearing your story, that makes more sense, because I didn't know all your story before this, but it makes more sense. The adversity that you've been through, it just gives you a callus, right, on your mind and on your hands, but it gives you a callus to life. And what I will say is this, is that for those of you listening, if you're in a position where you get thrown into a fire or into some sort of leadership position that might not be favorable to the people around you, is you need to just take a second to assess, right? And that's a big, big thing, is you have to be able to look at something and not only let go of your ego, but you need to learn how to talk to people. Don't approach everybody like you know everything about them. Don't approach everybody with some bias because that's what you've been told, that they are this or they are that way. Give everybody around you a chance. Let them bury themselves. This is a big piece of advice for you guys that are especially getting ready to try to take on lead roles or get into a foreman position or a general foreman or a field superintendent if you're trying to make those jumps. I really want to highlight that your communication skills vary on who you talk to, because you could read the room, and mine do the same. I'm very observant, and that's how I can say that, right? We've never had that conversation, but it's something I know. And I want to talk about, like, how do you overcome adverse leadership? Now, we learned this in the military because you get served shit sandwiches more than you don't. But
Yeah, life in general. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So how would you say, give me some gold here. What's a piece of advice you would give somebody going through it right now in this adverse leadership time, before we dump into now how you've accelerated that? But what's something that you would give somebody going in the trades right now that's maybe on the fence? Like,
I'd say this, and I mean, leadership is a career in its own. I will say that. So having bad leaders is only a fault of their leadership, for not giving them the proper training to be a leader. You can spend your entire life learning about leadership and still maybe not achieve the full scope of what that is. There's been some amazing leaders that have come and will come. So I've had, middle level leadership and upper leadership that I've analyzed. I've been highly critical of them, and I'm sure a lot of these tradesmen out there are as well. It's easy to be highly critical of the mistakes they're making and the things you see objectively from your position. If you feel, first and foremost, if you feel that you have bad leadership, the first thing you need to do is take accountability for yourself and what you're doing. You're leading yourself, first of all. You are a leader. Even to the guy sweeping the floors right now, you are a leader of those floors, and you're a leader of your position, and you're a leader of how you conduct yourself at any professional level. I think it's easy when you're seeing leadership that feels like it's lacking to blame them, to have a negative opinion of them, to analyze them. And this is going to be kind of a surprising response to maybe to you, Jonathan, but like, I really don't fault those individuals anymore for being poor leaders. I believe that they weren't given the correct opportunity to be trained by their leadership. If you're at the top, though, you are responsible, for everybody under you, every man under you, every woman under you. So when I encounter poor leadership
that's
now,
called taking ownership, by the way.
Yes, extreme ownership.
Yep.
When I encounter, even today, and I still encounter and see leadership flaws in people as they're leading their crews or men or companies. Everywhere I go, I'm watching leadership and what they're doing. And for the people, for the workers, the lower level employees or the entry level employees, or even the journeyman carpenter, the journeyman operator, you're vested, you've been trained, you know what you're doing. Worry about what you're doing. Control what you can control, and take some pride in that. Know your work is good. Know you're squared away. And when leadership makes a decision that you think affects you and maybe cause you to have to do more, great. They got to pay you more now. So change your mindset from like, I'm being poorly led, to I'm leading myself and I'm going to take pride in that. And I'm going to work within the confines of what leadership is in place right now. And I'm going to make a plan. If you do not like it, make a plan for exit.
There we go.
That's it. Make a move.
Go. And I like what you just said there about the extreme ownership piece, especially. But the wisdom in that is beyond your years, dude. You're right. You have to, understand that they probably weren't given the right tools. You see that, especially in the military. I had shitty leadership. My seniors were trash, and I could blame them for the way that it was, or I could take accountability and try to be better. Now, at a younger age, I didn't understand that, and I blamed, right? I can say that. I blamed. I took the excuse route. I was weak. But in my age now, when I look at, like, if I have a communication failure, say with my wife, like, that's on me, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's on me to figure out how to effectively communicate with her in a way that maybe she understands better, to take ownership of, like, maybe the way my actions are perceived, right? And this is just a different facet of leadership on the home front, right? On the job site, my job, like in the case of us, is to evaluate you on the fly. And it's not to find a way to terminate you, but to find a way to work with you, to find a way to set you up for success, right? That was my goal when I met you, was how can I help set him up to be the most successful, right? And that's what matters. And now you could all, that being said, we're all people. Like, hold on, audience.
Yes.
We're all people. We all have egos. Ego is the death of us all, right? We all have our prejudgments. We all have our moments of weakness where we complain and we bitch about people, and that's normal. You're going to go through that. You're going to experience it. It's going to happen to you. You're going to do it about other people. The sooner you get rid of that about you, the faster you'll grow, the sooner you'll be able to climb the ladder. That's a huge thing. But I'll digress from this, because what I want to get into is how you were able to take essentially being handed just incredibly, I won't say difficult, but stressful situations that then started to impact your home front essentially, and your quality of life, if for lack of a better phrase, but your quality of life was starting to be impacted by other people, and because you internalized it, right? And now you took that, and what you've done is created a company. And I want you to talk about being able to parlay fear. Okay, because let's get into what you do now. Let's get into that, right? But this is the leadership piece I wanted to touch on, in that is because I wanted to stress to our audience, which is why I asked you to cover that, is because I wanted to stress to these guys that, and qualify you in the sense that you're able to take adversity and not let it be period, the end, right? That's a big thing, man. Like, a lot of people miss that. Like, we go through something that's hard and we take it and we make it the end. I'm going through some stuff right now in life that would, to the older version of me, be period, the end. Oh my God, OMG, what am I going to do? Right? So
why me? Why me?
Why me? Why
Yeah.
me? But you were able to take why me and turn it into this is me, right?
100%.
So what's that look like?
Life is going to bring challenges every single day. You need to wake up ready to be in the fight. You don't have to have, it's attitude. And, those posters on the wall in high school and in the break room at your office, the discipline, attitude is everything. As cheesy as this sounds, it's the truth.
It is the truth.
It is the truth. So first and foremost is attitude. Every single day I function as a small contractor. I know that I'll make a plan and it's not going to go as planned. I know that. I know that there's so many uncontrollable factors throughout the day that are going to happen. Even if it's as simple as, hey, we just need to do X to achieve Y, and that's it, and we'll make money. The path to X to Y is not a straight line, and it never will be. And the sooner you accept that, the better. I welcome challenges at this point in time because it's only continuing to develop me, develop my character, develop my faith, develop everything in me. So adversity is your friend. Adversity is your teacher. And it's not something you should quit and cut bait on. It's something you should analyze and dive into.
I would say embrace.
Absolutely. Embrace it, momentum and motivation, like when I want to get into that in a minute, motivation versus discipline, but about having difficult times in your daily life, marriage, family death, the list goes on, trauma, childhood trauma, substance abuse, the list goes on. And a lot of tradesmen are exposed to those kind of experiences, and have come from various walks of life. They're great people, but they've experienced some hard things, and they're on these high pressure, high functioning job sites trying to perform all these things and dealing with leadership that maybe, and this is what typically happens with leadership. Somebody's pretty good at what they do, as far as their trade.
Yeah.
They build relationships with their leadership, and with those relationships and them performing at a high level in their field, they are promoted for what they're able to do. And leadership typically is giving them the promotion because they feel that through their relationship, they can count on this guy to perform work and manage a crew. Now, the missing factor here oftentimes is that sometimes people are not ready, and you'll never be ready to be in that leadership position. And you don't have to be ready, and that's okay. I just want to say that. You don't have to be ready. There's no I'm ready. Starting a business, there's no perfect time. You just got to jump in. You're going to learn by trial through fire. You know, everybody has different setups where maybe they have an advantage in some different way, and that's fantastic. But when I started my company, I know zero on the business end. I know trade, right? So I know how to pour concrete. I know how to finish concrete. I know how to dig holes. I know how to read layout. All these different things. We get into that. That's not really important to the point. But I know zero about accounting when I jump in. I know zero. How do you give a bid? You know, how do you break up the job? How are you selling the jobs? Are you selling them as time and materials? Are you selling them as a hard bid? What are these things? What's business and ordinance tax? What's sales tax reporting like? All these things, you know, and you soon find out, whoa, entrepreneurship is hard. And that's why it's a small percentage of this country that isn't in that position. And they have a saying, like, if you can make it one year, you might make it 3, you know, and if you make it 2, you might make it 5, you know, and it's never over. You know, it can end at any time. Being a small business, your business can fail through various ways, you know, economy, like, you know, I don't want to touch on it too much. COVID, you know, it crushed a lot of small businesses that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. Yep. And it's a tragic story. But those individuals that built those companies, those types of people, they started new companies, and they said, what's next?
Or they retired.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Or they handed off their you know, remaining resources to a selected individual who will carry them, or they sold their businesses. And I'll say that, don't ever dissolve your business. Sell it. If you have something valuable, sell what you have, you know, if you're going to do something else. Staying on point on leadership, Jonathan, it's a extremely fascinating field to me. And I love leadership. So if you have poor leadership, first things first, take accountability for yourself. And then you talked about egos, and I wanted to touch on that. There's this thing called disarming egos. When you're dealing with somebody who is under stress and maybe their crew feels they are not performing at the level that they should be as a leader, they are going to be defensive, and their ego and their pride is on high alert. So if you go to give them advice or give your opinion about maybe doing something more productively, that's just gonna bounce off them, and you're probably going to get a defensive response from them. So the first thing I would recommend, if you want to develop a relationship with your leader who you think is doing a poor job or has some deficits, would be to empathize with them first and foremost. Be like, you know, hey boss, you know, whatever, Bill, Mike, Jenny, whatever your name may be, you know, do you got time for a 10-minute conversation at the end of the day? Sure. Everybody's going to say yes to that, right? And they don't know, they figure you're going to complain about something. That's what they're prepping for, right? And they got all this stuff on their plate, and they're under pressure, and there's all these uncontrollable factors, and they're stressed, right? And so you go to have this conversation, and what I would recommend and what I've done with people is like, hey, I really appreciate how hard you're working. I want to say that first and foremost, boss. Like, it's a tough job. How are you doing? How's your stress level? You know, how's things at home? You know, with this high level commitment position you're in, and it's going to disarm them immediately, and they're going to be like, oh, well, you know, yeah, it is pretty stressful. Or I'm doing okay, but hey, I really appreciate you actually caring about your leader and what's going on with me, and that's going to open the door for conversation to build trust. When you build trust with somebody, you can influence them.
Yes, but you need to be open to the criticism that might come from them as well.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
You are, when you're building
Correct.
trust, you're opening yourself up to
so
feedback.
Your ego, being the conversation opener, also needs to be disarmed.
Yes.
Put it away. It doesn't need to be there. Receive critical advice humbly and respectfully. at least on a visual level, to continue to build that relationship. I believe I was listening to one of your other podcasts. You said your network is your net worth, and I wrote it down, and I often do that when I hear some other gold, and I started to analyze why I'm able to maintain the income I was making in the union, which in the union trades we make a pretty decent income, you know. Right. And that's a big thing, a big challenge factor going out on your own. Can I, when you have financial commitments, you own a home, you have vehicles, you have a family, those are big commitments. And it is in fact what does stop a lot of men and women from making the jump. The system is not designed, and I repeat, the system is not designed for you to break away on your own.
No, it's
not.
They
do not want you to.
No, you're designed to work 40 hours to 100%. 60 hours a week to feed 100%. The man and to do this and that. Mm-hmm. For time's sake, we'll stay away from that conversation. Another yeah,
for later.
No, it's not. The system is not made for you to succeed, and you have to become what we talked about in a previous episode is the 1%. Mm-hmm. You have to have this level of belief in not only your abilities and your capabilities, but in what you're about to embark on. You have to understand that not only can I do this, but I'm going to. Like, I am going to do this. Not, I might, or I wish I could, or everybody wishes they could. Everybody wishes that they could. But that's the difference between you and them. I don't wish anymore. I work. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm hungry. I'm not going to starve. I'm going to eat.
That's right.
That's the difference. And that's a mentality switch that you have to have. But because on time's sake here, the criticism part is important, right? Like, I love what you said about disabling your ego, because you do have to disarm is the word you use, but I'm going to say disabling it, because when I come to the table to talk to somebody, I might know, like, I'm ready to eat. I'm a shark, boys, and I smell blood in the water, but I can approach you like a lamb. Mm-hmm. I can approach you knowing that I'm a shark, knowing that I could eat your ass if I wanted to. I could eat you up, but I'm going to come at you in a way that's, hey, how can I serve you?
Absolutely.
And how can I help you be better? How can I be better for you? How can I make myself more of a multi-tool for you? And Jesse, that's what you've done. And what the people don't understand is that you took adverse leadership, which is big, and for time's sake here, I'm speeding this up. You took adverse situations in your life and you created them into a ball that literally bounced upstairs. It did the impossible. You didn't let it be the reason that you were defeated. You took this and made it this. And then you took that and reconfigured this into that. And then that became this again in a different format, right? And you just continued to take one step after one step after one step after one step. And you know what? The world, it's heavy. Man, it gets tired. There's a lot on my shoulders. There's a lot of financial pressure. My family's barking at me. This is going on. My mind doesn't shut up, right? It's running. But you were able to take these things, this adversity, these things you didn't like, and recreate what is now who you are today, which is a leader, which is a man that's leading his family, which is a man that is achieving autonomy like he wanted, like he spoke about earlier in the show. And what you've done is you've set an example for me and for other men and women out there in the trades to say that if you wake up, and yes, I am going to say wake up because most of you are asleep at the wheel. If you wake up and you decide you want it, today is day one. Today is D-Day. Now, you're not saying go quit your job. You're saying make rapid decisions to work that direction. Take action today, not tomorrow. How can I get better? Well, I can go and ask for feedback, right? I can understand criticisms and take failure as feedback and take criticism as critiques and make little adjustments to make myself more marketable and to make myself more valuable and to put myself in a position to lead. Because once I can show that what I have inside of here is better and invaluable to you, then other people can then believe that too, right? I got to believe, though. I got it. I'm ready to lead this. I'm ready to rock this show. This is my moment. I got the microphone in front of me. I'm ready to sing.
You're doing it.
I'm ready to go, right? And that's what you have to do, and that's what you did. But one thing I want to do because of this show is one thing we really do. And dude, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and your advice on that. That was incredible. But one of the things that we do on this show is we get into some Q and F, some frequently asked questions, right? And I want to take a minute here to get into a few questions that I have for you that I think will provide value. All right. So getting into the frequently asked questions, and I'm sorry to accelerate this on you, but you're spitting fire right now. So I want you to be able to answer.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of things that you can parlay to our audience that is going to be gold. Okay. So first of all, I got to ask, because this is the staple question, right?
Sure.
This is the staple question for this show. What is a blue collar barbarian to you?
A blue collar barbarian. Well, I'd say that is a man or woman who has characteristics of grit, aggressiveness, toughness, tenacity. Get out of my way. I'm going to get this done. Knuckle draggers.
Yeah.
Salt of the earth. Just getting after it. In this show, you've seen me be very calm and relaxed, and that's the forum we're in. You might see me in the field in a different facet. I'm aggressive. I'm going to win.
Yes.
I'm going to do the work. I'm going to get up before the sun's up. I'm going to come home when the sun's down. Mm-hmm. When you're sleeping, I'm prepping.
Yes.
When you're not moving, I'm moving. Blue collar is the heartbeat of this country. And we need you to be aggressive and to continue to represent the values of what we built this thing on.
Yeah, for real.
You are important. You need to go down and grab that fire and release it. And it's okay to be intimidatingly aggressive in certain situations. It's okay to say, get out of the way. Let me show you how this is done. A blue-collar barbarian is a barbarian, but they can also be a weapon because they can be controlled in the sense of how they do things. They can control themselves in the sense of like they're adjustable, they're adaptable, they overcome. So you can have a guy, I can be on site and I can be lifting hundreds of pounds of concrete and I can be screaming and yelling and getting it done. And then I can hold my baby boy when I get home and speak with a soft tone. Okay? There's a form that you're a warrior, and when you go and you're out in the field, or the battle, as I call it, you wake up and you prepare yourself for battle every day as a blue-collar man or woman who needs to be aggressive, tenacious, and just want it. You're identified yourself by choosing to be in a field that is going to drive this country. So you need to take pride in that and get after it. You write a lot of your own trajectory. It's up to you. It's nobody's problem but yours. If you're a blue-collar barbarian, you're a knuckle dragger, you're tough, show us. Show us what you got. And I know you guys are out there doing it right now. Right now, it's Saturday. A lot of people are staying home, waking up late, and that's great. Good for them. Some of you are out there grinding right now, making that double bubble, as we call it, which is double overtime for some of you, and some on just straight overtime, making big money, making moves for your life, and getting after it.
Amen. Question number 2 I got for you. What is missing in leadership today?
Well, I don't think we have time for that entire question on the podcast, but I will say what is missing in leadership today? Accountability. First and foremost, leaders not taking ownership. That's probably the number one thing I see. Leadership not taking ownership of their leadership. Not leading through service, but dictating. That doesn't work, and it shows in these companies, in their manpower. They have a poor culture, and it is their fault. It is not their manpower. There's no such thing as bad teams. There's only bad leaders. You are responsible. If you're in a leadership position, I encourage you to dive into that, you need to be researching, developing yourself outside of your working hours to become a better leader for your team.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's a great answer. How about this? How do you make yourself more marketable for leadership opportunities? Like, how would you make yourself stand out enough, or how would you make it to where it's known you're ready for that next step?
Influence, relationships, the ability to influence people is what will drive you to be a leader or be selected as a leader. If you have a hot head, you will not be selected in leadership by upper management, because leadership wants somebody who can control their emotions. If you're yelling at somebody, you have failed to communicate what you need them to do. That's on you. If you've lost control of your emotions and you're yelling at somebody, and I know we're in the blue collar field, and it's appropriate at times, but you should never yell. And if you ever have to yell, that should be like wow, I got bossed to that point. And that should really have a huge impact on that individual. So making yourself more marketable as a leader, or to be selected for leadership, is one, relationships. And relationships is the start, then trust. And with trust, you have influence on individuals. If they know they can count on you, you're going to become more marketable. Quietly performing. Quiet professionals are oftentimes selected. Having a good attitude. Again, leadership needs to have a diplomatic approach to everything. Serving. So if you're a foreman, your standard, jump into leadership. If you're a foreman, you need to show your general foreman, who usually is the next position up, and your superintendents, that you take personal pride in your work and that your crew respects you because they trust you. If your subordinates and your team trusts you, you are marketable. If you don't have trust, you don't have anything. That's it.
That's great. That is great, actually. And then my last question for you, man. What's a couple books that you'd suggest that people might pick up? Because feeding your brain is super important, right? What you consume is what you'll put out. So if you want to be accelerated, you want to make money, you want to learn to lead, you want more opportunity to lead, to make more money, or to learn the skills that you might need to do your own thing, what are some books that people could read?
I'm an avid reader and podcast listener. This is usually my first recommendation to men and women is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink is a retired Navy SEAL commander, where he takes military situations and he translates them to civilian sector of how to lead. It is a breakdown of leadership. Highly recommend that book as a starter point. That was one of the first books I read when I was really diving in to wanting to be a leader of any capacity.
Yeah, that was a good book. I've read that, and Dichotomy of Leadership. Any other books?
I read the guys that maybe are a little intimidating, maybe that on a different level, their own type of barbarian. They are tenacious. They don't take no for an answer. They're winners. And David Goggins, who's a big name out there. That
was a great book too.
And let's go. Who's gonna carry the boats? Who's gonna carry the boats? I love him. He's just unapologetic.
Stay
unapologetic.
Hard.
And that's a barbarian thing. Unapologetic. Be unapologetic. Own yourself in that way. Yeah. He has a couple books. Just look them up. And Never Finished.
Can't Hurt Me.
And Can't Hurt Me. I've read them both. His story is a great, great story of adversity and what you can become through embracing your identity and those situations. I don't care how hard your childhood was. I could throw a rock right now, probably hit the staff in this room with a rock, and I bet they've gone through something hard, or they're going through something hard. Yes. The human condition is a struggle. You need to embrace that and get some grit move forward. I never stop moving forward. I don't care if I move an inch today in some type of development. I'm going to develop in some way today. I'm going to get better in some way today. You know, and there's so many pieces of gold out there if you're actually listening and paying attention. Pay attention. Wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. This is your life. You get one shot at it. Okay? You want to leave a reputation, a legacy for your kids, for your dogs, whatever, you know, whatever you're into. I don't care, whatever your path is, but if you want it, you're the only one that's going to show if you want it. That's it.
You're the only one coming to save you, man.
That's it. Nobody's come to save me, you know? And so turn off the YouTube. Well, not right now, but turn off the social media, turn off the TV, gain some knowledge in your resting hours. It's good for your mind. Develop yourself in the evenings. When everybody's asleep, sharpen your tools because the challenges are coming. When things are good and things are calm, the storm is coming. I advise you to be prepared for the next challenge because it will come.
Be prepared. And with that, Jesse Parman, it has been my absolute pleasure to have you on this show.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will definitely have you back. We'll probably dive into some more stuff. That was gold. I really think our audience is going to take a lot away from this. The people that listen to the show, they care about winning and they care about leading. So, one, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
and thank you for coming to share your story. And thank you for inspiring all of us through your actions, more importantly, to take the next step in life and to go bigger.
Yeah,
go bigger. So stay
That's right.
hard.
Let's get it.